Hi, just introductions to begin with. My name is Rachel. I used to be an elementary school teacher, and then during COVID, I picked up cookies, and I haven't really looked back since. It since became my entire life. I left teaching in after the school year of 2022. So I started my full time cookie journey in mid 2022. And I have not looked back since. I haven't had a time off except for my wedding that happened that October. And I've basically thrown my whole life into fully figuring out how to really make custom desserts accessible to everybody and anybody. I am not here to rob people of their money. I'm not here to promote products that aren't worth it. I'm here to make sure that we are just helping each other out, making sure life is livable and we can do fun things and spread the love of baking, spread the love of cookies, spread the love of everything. And the great thing about the blue is I can do more than cookies. And that was like literally the biggest selling point for me. I'm gonna put my iPad up there. I love to do cookies. I love to do all that. But my husband and I, we just got married in 2022. And my heart is with kids. And so I can't wait to have kids of my own. And when we're trying to figure out how cookie business, when I am working 80, 90 hours a week, is going to happen with an infant, that just gets a little bit dicey. So I've started looking into a printer. I only knew about one printer on the market, and I thought that was my only choice. I ordered a printer and I had it at home, but then I went to CookieCon literally 5 days later. Didn't even take the other printer out of the box or anything. I just didn't have time. And that was another reason I'll get into with Blue. But I went to CookieCon and I was walking around the vendor hall and I was super excited because I was going to learn from the other cookiers that use the other printer or the other printers out there. Like, I wanted to learn from them. And then I walk into the vendor hall and I walk it up to the Icing Images booth.
And she never left.
And I never left, like quite literally never left.
Can you do me a favor and move to your left just a little bit? There we go. That's for the Instagram.
So yes, we can see Blue. Her name is Betsy. I am working on her little name plaque that I'm going to put right there. But she is my most efficient and best employee to date. And I have her on a table, just a stand. I got it off Amazon. It was a stainless steel table. And I actually have it big enough so it can sit next to my 3D printer. So, and the really cool thing is I've had Betsy and my edible print or my 3D printer going at the same time. And my prints on either machine don't get messed up. The Icing Images print is perfect. The 3D print is perfect. So that even though they both shake and move a little bit or the table moves, it still comes out perfectly. And so that was a selling point that I don't remember if it was Debbie, if it was Lori at CookieCon showing me, but they put a jelly bean or an M&M or something right on the plate, the print plate, right next to the cookies. And it didn't move. It barely shook because the plate doesn't actually like move in the process of printing besides very slowly forward or backwards. And so your cookie is not being jostled. So you can even print on wet icing, which was another super cool thing because I'm a procrastinator. I will do everything last minute if I can, because that's just how my brain works. Like my to-do list just gets all shuffled and I'm like, all right, priority first, thinking of if something needs to be done at 7, I'm going to do that first. If something needs to be done at 8, it doesn't matter. So, but I can't think about what needs to be done at 9 until I get done with the 7 sometimes. So we have Little Blue that comes in for me, where I have printed literally an hour after. And that was I only waited an hour because I had to flood the rest of my cookies. So when I was finished flooding everything, I just went back to the first tray that I flooded and I could start printing. So that was a really cool incentive for me. And I can also place up to 8 4-inch rectangles on this plate at one time. But the other really cool thing is I don't even have to do all the same prints on this plate. I can have 8 different images if I wanted to. And it will all print seamlessly in one fall swoop of the bed. And the bed only takes about like 7 minutes in total to get all the way through printing from top to bottom. So I actually, when I was at CookieCon, the compact, the newest model was not out yet, and I wanted this thing now. So I ordered the very first one that's a little bit wider, but I don't mind it. I actually I like that it's big. I like that I can see everything and maneuver. And from everything that I learned, I was able to make the decision that since all of the printer parts are the same, regardless of what size of blue printer you have, it doesn't matter what size you have as long as you know how to use it. Like, and that's the cool thing too, is you get a free or included in your price, a 2-hour training that's recorded that you can just refer back to. And I've referred back to it multiple times. And then I've done the silly thing where panic and I email Icing Images saying, help me, I don't know what to do here. But within an hour, I get a very detailed, perfect response that is exactly what I needed help with. And for me, literally the only thing I needed was a reminder about the hot towel press to clean the printer head. And that was just because I printed a super heavy saturated item like right before that. And then I was printing on like perfect black lines on white back. And so it was just a little bit too much color on there that had kind of transferred. And so I did the hot towel press, worked perfectly. I printed 300 cookies right after that and we were all good. So having the customer service be what it is, it's often at other places where you're buying items, you're not talking to bakers and makers, but with Icing Images, you are. And that's the really cool thing. And that was another big selling point on top, because I was sitting there at the Icing Images booth talking about all the ways I could learn and use this printer in my cookie business that I didn't even think about. Because when they were demoing at the booth, they were showing the edible fabric that you can like cut and make into ruffles. And I could put that on top of a cookie. In my brain, that wasn't even edible printer, didn't cross my mind with being able to do that type of stuff. I don't know why. It's just my brain wasn't opened yet. I was not enlightened yet. So they also showed me how the bed drops down. So mine drops down 4.5 inches deep. So I can do anything that's 4.5 inches deep and the length of basically a legal size piece of paper, which opens up so many possibilities for edible images, printing for people, printing for your bakes, printing on other edible items that maybe aren't cookies or aren't within like a 4.5 or 5 inch square box, where I've now printed edible images for people who go to Sam's Club and get a cake and they just want a topper that they can print and put on there themselves. I went on Etsy, did kind of my research and tried to find out how much people charge for them and everything. I ordered, I have to see where I set them down. Oh yes. I ordered a bunch of product from Icing Images actually, that I got the 3-inch little circle edible images because I've had people inquire about printing custom toppers for cupcakes. And I don't touch cupcakes. I don't care where you go buy your cupcakes. I'll just give you my edible image that you paid me for. And that's another revenue stream for me that took maybe 10 minutes of my time, especially when they send you the image, because you can edit your image or your whatever you want to go and print on anything you want. So that's the cool thing. I can print straight from Canva. I can print from my phone. I can print from Google. I can print from anywhere. I send it to my program, the printer program, and then we print it right away. And you can send it from anywhere, download it from anywhere. And Icing Images provides a computer with your purchase, which is really awesome because that was another thing that helped me decide why I went blue. Because I consider myself pretty tech savvy. I was the online teacher through COVID. I'm 28, so I'm kind of in that era. I'm kind of in the older millennial area where I kind of look at the 15-year-olds now and be like, I don't know what to do around you. But that is where I really enjoyed having Blue available and having the resources and having all of the possibilities. And so I haven't made sure if I have answered all the questions, if any, for me.
No,
But okay,
good.
perfect. So having the computer, they can tap into the computer with your permission, only with your permission, and change things. So when I was in the middle of my training and we were doing test prints, we noticed that it was printing a little bit off center or down a little bit. And Lori was able to just pop in there and change my settings on her own. And it didn't stress me out at all because she knew what to do to pop in there. All I had to do was allow her access to my computer and I could watch her do it all. And she was able to walk me through exactly what she was doing too, so that I at least knew. But I'm never going to touch that. I'm just going to let them come in and do it because that's one of the best resources and ways that I chose Blue because I love being able to talk to experts. I love being able to talk to people that are in the field, giving ideas like printing on marshmallows for individual s'mores kits or printing on a 9-inch cookie cake all at once. I don't even need to have an edible image sheet if I didn't want to. So I've done a lot of prints directly straight onto buttercream. And I just really enjoy all the ways that I can really just use this product to not only better my business, but help other people. Because I noticed so many times in schools and PTOs and everything like that we're like, oh, we wish we had somebody that could do this. We wish we could do this. And I'm like, I can. Like, if you want something that customized or that personalized, I can do that. And it's also not going to cost you the arm and the leg that a lot of companies will charge. Because again, I'm not here to make bank. Like, of course, I'm here to make money and I'm here to make my life easier and make money with the printer and everything like that. But I'm not here to rob people of their money. So I do one edible image for $12 and then I make a deal for 2 for $20. A little bit of an upsell, doesn't take me that much more time. And I can get the images or the edible image sheets for a decent, especially a really decent price for how high quality it is through Icing Images. So it's worth it to just do that for me than anything else. And I would rather have more people in the door, especially when it's things as small as an edible image. So that was the other thing. Everything about this, about the bed, about the training, about the computer, it all just rounded about to what was better for my business and my business only. Because so many people never want to venture into other endeavors besides cookies. And the base of a 4.5 or 5-inch square is okay for some people. And they're like, that is all I need it for. And I'm like, perfect. Then that's why you should do another printer other than this one. Because if you're not going to be printing all the time, if you're not looking for big corporate orders where you're just going to be kind of using it here and there, or just really where it's not a big printer like this maybe isn't feasible for you. And that's okay. But when I made my decision in the beginning, it wasn't informed because I only knew about one way. But once I learned about other ways, I genuinely sat there and made a pros and cons list in my hotel room during CookieCon, just trying to make sure that I chose what was best for my own business. Because I don't want to ever venture into making cakes and making cupcakes. I am not a buttercream artist. My buttercream ends at going on the top of a cookie cake. And that's it. And I'm okay with that. Because when I was talking to another baker, she was like, wouldn't you be offended if somebody brought you their own bakes? I was like, cookies, I don't really want to print on other people's cookies unless they're like mom and pop cookies. But cupcakes, cakes, edible images, cookie pops, M&Ms for weddings, give me all of them. Because that is not a realm I care to get into for my business. And so this was such a great option for me. I don't have to buy any other like adaptables for the bed if I want to print on M&Ms or if I want to print on smaller, like 4 smaller shapes. I don't have to print. I don't have to buy a new tray. I don't have to buy any new adapter. What I spent when I bought my printer is all I'm going to have to spend for the printer. I will have to buy ink. I will grab the papers that you print on. But other than that, there's no other additional purchases. And that's another way I really was sold on it, because when I started diving into how to use other printers, I was overwhelmed because there was no training that I could look at. And I was mostly relying on going through people's stories and learning through stories. And that takes a long time if you know, looking through social media, trying to find things exactly what you're wanting to learn about. It's really hard. And I was overwhelmed. I was trying to do custom cookies. I was trying to get ready for CookieCon. I just didn't see a way. And then I was overwhelmed thinking about going home from CookieCon and knowing that I still had to learn about all this stuff before I could produce my first printed order. And when I saw and heard about all the benefits of the training, the fact that I can go back and rewatch it, the fact that I have the people that gave me the training accessible to text, call, email, be like, hey, I need help. And they will even jump on a Zoom call with me. That was what sealed the deal for me. I mean, honestly, the printer has opened my business in so many different ways, but the value that I have in the business that is behind the product, that is where I sell my company most on. I don't care if I have 40 dozen cookies going out that week. As long as I have 10 dozen go out that are perfect. I make an extra cookie of every single design just so that if I have a slight imperfection, I don't have to send it with a customer. And then I sell my cookies discounted that I made that might have an imperfection or something. Just because I want the best. I want to put my name out there only in the best ways. And I actually put my first ever printed order a week after CookieCon. So I had my training on the Wednesday after CookieCon, or after it arrived after CookieCon. So I think it was 2 weeks later. And that Thursday or that Friday, I delivered my first 150 printed order. I started practice printing that night after training because we started printing during training. And then I was practice printing on a few of the things that I had. And then I just started right into an order. That order has now gotten me contacted by the director of the Kelley School of Business of Indiana University. So that has now opened the possibility for me working for the entire university. I've already partnered with the women's basketball team and a few of the other smaller departments. But the Kelley School of Business is literally nationally known as one of the best business schools in the country. And so the fact that my first printed order ever, which I have a cookie from, I just have to figure out where I set it down. I thought I had it. Oh, it's right here. It was a relatively simple print, but at the same time, we had deep, dark, saturated reds and oranges, and they were all kind of put together along with a very crisp logo. And this was actually the cookie that I was printing on, where I had pink that was coming through my last practice prints, and I was practice printing with a lot of saturation just to kind of see what happened with it. And that's when I did the hot towel press and cleaning method, and I got perfect prints like this. So really, I had 2 hours of training, maybe 2 hours in total of practice outside of it. And I put a $400 order out my door printed, and it took me a few hours. So by the very first weekend of owning it and having it in my house, it opened up my possibilities. And I went to markets these past 2 weeks, and I've taken printed cookie cakes. They've sold immediately. And sometimes full cakes or full cookie cakes or anything like that are kind of harder to sell at markets because people are looking for the cheaper, quick things that they could pick up and go. One printed cookie cake literally was gone within the first hour of the market. And I was planning on having to take it home with me. And that was just because I hadn't done a market yet before. And I was like, nobody's going to want a big cake like this when we're out from Christmas or anything like this. And I'm just going to probably do a giveaway around my town and give it away. Nope. It was sold within the first hour. And they were baffled about the fact that I printed directly on the buttercream. Genuinely, all I do is I have a printed cookie cake. So I'm going to grab it really, really quick. It's right here. Here I am. So 9-inch deep dish cookie cake. I frosted the top, and then all I will do is set it on my printer bed after I make a template, and I can print it within 5 minutes. And it has printed for me absolutely perfectly. I actually printed one the day my husband decided to leave the military, and he was going to his last drill, and I printed one 30 minutes before he walked out the door. And that thing was demolished by the soldiers within the first 20 minutes of him being there. So, I mean, genuinely, the possibilities it opens up, because even his commander was like, wait, you can do that? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And so he was like, well, maybe we can talk about doing that for some of our celebrations. And so it's like, I've now gone into the military side of providing for that, because they have very official logos and they have very strict rules on their logos and everything. And so to make them by hand, I would be a little bit worried because I want them perfect. But to be able to open up to IU and the military, what two bigger things could I dream of for partnering within the first 3 months of owning this machine?
So let me ask you this.
Yes.
So I now I lost my question, but sorry, it just went bye-bye.
That's all right.
But Crystal does want to know what kind of things you print on the cookie cakes. And by the way, deep dish cookies, oh my gosh.
Oh, they are amazing. I make them in a cheesecake pan, and I use an entire batch for one cookie. And it is quite possibly one of my most desired items. And then I make mini ones too, which I'm going to be practicing printing on mini ones for Christmas. Nice. But for IU, I actually did. So you print onto templates here. And so I actually save all my templates, because you can put your templates right back on your printer after you save your print and use it again. You just have to make sure that you put it back on your bed in the same way. But once you get used to it, it's really easy to put it back on the same way and then just keep printing. So I was just going to look here to see so here's a 9-inch circle template that I put onto the cookie cake. And it worked perfectly. And so then on the top of the cookie cake, all I did was do a shell border around and I called it quits. I sold it for $45 and people ranted and raved.
So your profit on that is a lot.
A lot. Because all it is a half a batch of buttercream and one batch of chocolate chip cookie dough.
Yeah,
and maybe an hour in total.
20%.
Yeah,
20%.
exactly.
Yes.
And I can turn those around for $45. And people don't bat an eye for $45, even in Southern Indiana, which my base dozen either goes for 65 or 70. And people sometimes gawk at that, and that's all right. It's not for everybody. But my printed cookies, I've put down at 60 because it takes less time. I'm not sitting there doing everything. And it's still, I still want to value my time with printing and everything, because there are things that you want to make sure are perfect. And sometimes you literally put things on the bed and then you yourself bump a cookie and you don't even realize it. And then you got to reprint. It's not the machine's fault. It's user error. And that's the other really cool thing about the printer is it also, I'm trying to find on one sheet here. It gives you a printer ink test, just like a normal printer. So I double printed on this ink test by accident, but I just have one paper that I use like to practice there. I just took the other half and I just use that for my print head checks, because you do that before you print when you turn on the machine every time. And that just helps make sure that everything, you can make sure there's no lines or anything like that. And that's one really cool thing where I know how to use a basic printer. I've been using one since they came out when I was little. So, I mean, I can figure out a basic printer, and this has a lot of the qualities of that. And so the other edible printers out there, I don't know as well, just because they don't act like a normal printer. And this one really does, because Icing Images has normal edible printers that aren't like the blue. They have where you can just put the icing sheets in and it looks like a normal regular printer. But it actually does edible ink. And so they use a lot of the same technologies, which make it a lot more user-friendly in my book. My mom is 70 years old and she printed 200 cookies for me. She was here for the weekend. I made my templates on the computer and she moved all the cookies each time, dusted them and cornstarched them after they were dry. She was able to do it all. And she is 70 years old. And sometimes she's like, I don't know how to do technology. And I'm like, yes, you do. It's okay. It'll be okay. And she was really worried at first because she was with me at CookieCon making this decision. And she was like, I just can't wait to see what you do with Little Blue. And then she got to use it the second weekend I was using it. And she made 200 perfect prints. Because that's the other thing I've done is I teach a lot of cookie classes and I put blank cookies on there and I make the templates for my cookie classes. So this was a skull face or a skull, bottom of the skull, and I had his nose cut out. So I actually used black ink and covered that in. And then I didn't need to make black icing for my cookie class. And I didn't need to go and use a marker and draw that in, because these were actually for kids.
So tell me about the black excuse me, the black ink. I'm not working well today.
That's right. So that was another huge thing. So the ink cartridges in other printers, when one color goes out, you're pretty much SOL. Little Blue here has 12-ounce icing or ink bottles that come, and you can load them into ink tanks in the very back. So on this back here, there are ink tanks that come through your printer head, and you can just reload those every time. So if a color runs out, doesn't matter, just add more. Cartridges, you're out of luck. The second that one color goes out, then all your other colors are skewed, or sometimes they won't even print without the other colors. And then you have to buy a new cartridge for however much it is. And here, the ink, the bottles of 12 ounces of ink actually come out to be cheaper than cartridges in the end. And you get a lot more ink. Where I've been using this solid since end of September. I have not refilled my inks once, and they're not even close to being halfway down. Not even close.
How many cookies do you think you printed?
I've probably printed close to 800 in the 3 months. And then I've printed probably 7 giant cookie cakes and 9 edible images. And I haven't even had to empty the extra ink cartridge, like the throwaway junk ink yet.
Yeah.
So it's really lasted me so incredible, like so much, where I haven't even noticed the ink levels go down in the back. And I'm printing straight black. Like this last cookie, I'll show you here. I mean, we are deep black. And this was one of the ones, it was not rolled nicely. So it was actually a lot shorter than my other cookies. So that's why we kind of have some overspray here. So you manually move the bed up and down, which I actually like. I'm a control freak. I want to make sure that it is exactly where I like it, no matter what. And Lori taught me how to make sure in the training, how to make sure that the bed is at the right spot so that the print head hits very nicely and doesn't make any overspray or anything like that, which you see in this cookie. I had none of that. So it was just the fact that this guy was rolled out a little bit wonky. But I did 25 sets of these 4 cookies and just in one night. And then I did 25 sets of 6 other types of cookies that night too. So I did all of that with straight black ink. Other cartridges don't have straight black ink. They use all the colors combined. Lil Blue here has a whole black ink cartridge or ink spot, and it is the best. I love being able to play with the saturation and add true black because IU colors aren't true like bright red. They're actually a deeper, darker crimson. So I print on cookies. I print the red stripes all the time because I don't know if anybody follows Indiana football or college football, but we are having a literal historical season where we've had more people in the city than ever before for our football team. And so I've been at pop-ups and I've had to do so many red stripes. And these have saved my life. Betsy has saved my life with those because sitting there trying to do even sprays of an airbrush to get those red lines crisp and nice, I would still be airbrushing for my pop-up 3 weeks ago if I needed my airbrush for all the red candy stripes I had to do. So being able to toss, I actually was able to get 10 of these on at a time because I could go horizontally. I could go 3 cookies horizontally on the plate. And so I was actually able to get a lot more cookies. So it kind of just depends on your amount of cookies too, or your size. You can get dozens done at the same time. And in 7 minutes, they're done. So really, it's pretty much a total of 14 if you count it, because you print the template, you place your cookies, you print it again, and they're all done. So if I could decorate by hand a dozen cookies in 14 minutes, I would go to the Olympics. But Betsy belongs in the Olympics because that's the only one that can do that. And so I also went to print for Veterans Day. I did a donation for our local veterans programs. And the one cool thing about the programming is I made this design in Canva. I transferred it over to the printer program. And then I played with the saturation a little bit because it was really deep red, really deep blue next to really deep black. And it was particularly wet in Bloomington that week. So the humidity was just fighting me at every turn. So I was actually able to play with the saturation a little bit so it didn't dump as much color on there, and then therefore it didn't bleed. So just because the air was so wet and everything was just so incredibly disgustingly humid. No matter how long my cookies had dried, they were still wet sometimes. And I use corn syrup, I use meringue powder, I have all of it accurate. The next day it dried perfectly because the rain stopped. So, you know, we love royal icing. But I was able to play with that saturation and make this print work even in a super wet environment when it was tending to bleed on me. And that was only because the saturation was high and the colors were super deep and the air was super humid. But I was able to play around knowing what I knew thanks to the training that I received. I didn't have to panic. I knew exactly where to go in my settings, in my programs, and all the things that I needed to do to edit that and make that print work. And I knew if I just shot an email to Icing Images too, they would be able to help me instantly. However, between the recording, because not only do we talk through the machine during all this training, everything, we just talk troubleshooting sometimes. And I've now found other blueprinters on social media and everything where I'm not the only one that I know that owns a blueprinter. And that's what's really cool. And one of my hesitations in the beginning from buying a blue, because I didn't know anybody with one. But that's because in the cookie world, we know a different set of printers, and that's okay. I needed my eyes open to find this printer that would work better in my business because I wanted to expand a little bit outside of cookies. And I wanted to print maybe a lot more than normal or a lot more than other people might. And I still have a 1 dozen minimum. And that's, I know a lot of people have talked about like, oh, you need a 2 dozen minimum to make it worth your while. But again, I'm 28 years old. And if I had a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old thinking about being required to spend no less than $140 on cookies for my son or daughter's first birthday, that's intimidating for somebody like at my age, when we just had a lot of money stolen from us last year, and we're trying to pick back up, and the blue is actually helping me with that. So being able to expand and do things like that really changed our world, because before I really didn't have a concept that an edible printer could do anything else besides cookies, or you had to just print directly on the edible image sheets. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to print directly on my cookies because I don't want to take a bite into a piece of paper, but I had the wrong image. I had the wrong mentality with that, because after being at CookieCon, I actually got to taste and try some of the Icing Images sheets. They taste like nothing. They're just a little bit of a sugary sheet. And I had the mentality of like the Walmart ones that are like cellophane, like they're not that good. They don't taste good. They don't look good. It's just wasn't my favorite. And so I had the wrong mentality about that. But when I learned about this all at CookieCon, literally my whole world opened up, because it really just did so much more. And it was so much more user friendly. I really don't think I could have set my mom up with other edible printers and been able to allow her to do it, because of all the shifting of cookies so consistently. And you can't set the other ones up and walk away. Blue, you can set up, and then I can go and do something. I can go and finish flooding a tray of cookies. I can go and flip the cookies in the oven twice if I wanted to, and then come back, and my cookies will be sitting here waiting for me, drying and perfectly great. So it's wild how I wish I had the edible image. It just went out today, and I meant to print a second one, but I did a 9x13 basically of the entire cast of Stranger Things. And when I say it came out so clear and crisp that it looked like a normal print from CVS or whatever on photo paper, when I showed the client what the edible image was, she was like, wait, you're telling me that we can put this on a cake and eat it? This looks like perfection, like an actual picture. I'm like, I promise you, it is an edible image and you can eat it. It will taste fine. And I got a message from her the next day. She's like, I will never order a custom cake with any edible images unless I go through you for the edible images. They were so clear. I could get them absolutely customized. I cut one in a circle. It was perfect because I didn't have the circle sheets yet. So now that I have the circle sheets, I'm very excited because cutting a perfect circle, even for my brain, was too much. And I'm normally a crafty brain, but I was not ready for that. But yes, you can go and do whatever you want while it prints, and you don't really have to worry. And I'm going to knock on a bunch of wood because knowing my luck, I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it. I have never once walked away from a print and come back with it messed up. Ever.
So you do other things while
I do so much. So the way my cookie life works right now is all of my storage and everything as far as packaging is in this little 9x8 bedroom. Even like my drying racks and everything like that, because I do have animals and we're allowed to have them in the cottage food business in Indiana. And I've worked in kitchens in Indiana, and I can guarantee you my kitchen is cleaner. So I'm not worried about that, but I like to make sure that everything is stored incredibly safely. And the only time it's ever out in the main area of the house is when I'm with it. So I can maintain all of its sanitary needs and everything like that. So I'm working back and forth between my kitchen and my cookie room, and they're on opposite sides of the house. So I may have a small house, but it's still, I clocked myself walking back and forth from my cookie room to my oven one day, and I spent 35 minutes walking back and forth. If I didn't have to do that, which with our construction, it'll change it. And then little Blue will have a permanent, perfect spot. I'm having the contractor literally build a countertop for her, because I need her in my life no matter what. And I love printing on it. I absolutely love it. I love being able to drop everything down. Everything is super accessible. And it makes more sense for me if I were to go on maternity leave or something like that, I can still do edible images on this thing and make money. I could offer this out and be like, hey, bakers in the area, you want to use her for a few months? Come to me, I'll help you. You're not taking her. She's mine and she's never leaving my site. But we can do that. I can offer those things. And then my nieces came into town and they were baffled that I could teach them things like that. And I'm a teacher. I love to teach. Teaching a 7-year-old how to use a little of the little Blue and them being able to pick it up and do it with me is quite something I never thought I could be able to do. Especially
with a 70-year-old.
Exactly. I got 7 and I got 70 and then I got me in the middle. Just hoping for the best. Like, literally any age can use it. And that's what's really, really cool. It's just so user friendly. And my mom even left CookieCon feeling like she's like, I know those ladies too. I was like, yeah, because we spent so much time. And the quality of the print, I was able to compare directly from different printers, and it doesn't hold a candle. It literally doesn't hold a candle between your saturations, between your cleanliness and your overspray and your accuracy. I never found better. And I have been watching a lot of people's stories and seeing how frustrated they are with other printers and their technical difficulties and all that with them. And I was like, funny, I don't have that issue. Because if I do have that issue, I have the people that literally helped build it on my side to help me and talk me through it. And they use it every day in their businesses. Like, that truly is the biggest selling point to me, knowing that you have somebody that will have your back when it comes to this printer, knowing exactly what to do to make sure that this investment isn't lost on anybody. It makes you the most money that it can make you. And whatever you put into it, you can get right back out easily. Where, like I said, a $45, my normal cookie cakes that I don't decorate a print on, I do for 36, those go like cake, go really incredibly quickly. So I was really worried to go up to 45 for a print. When I tell you that people didn't care about the price as soon as they saw an image on it, there was no changing my mind or going back at that rate.
So let me ask you this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have some people that I know don't have the blue. Some are getting the blue. Some have just gotten the blue. Like we have all types of people, and then we have people out there that that are just considering it at this point. And some people here can't even get the blue because I won't let them because they don't qualify. They have to be able to printing properly. I don't want people to get it and use it as a doorstop.
Exactly.
So what is, I guess, what is your best advice you can get someone who is considering the blue when they get it?
Print on so many things that you can to see what you can do, because I really truly, CookieCon showing me how many different things I could print on it just kept opening my eyes to different possibilities in the edible image world and how many people could benefit from it. We're looking at all these things where we're trying to make things from home, and we're trying to do more like supporting at home and doing things in small business world, and being able to offer a printed Oreo to customers or a printed marshmallow to a little kid. Or I've been talking with Icing Smiles too, the company that donates bakes to kids that may be sick or in need or anything like that. And being able to get in touch with them, and I can work with their cake bakers even if they want an edible image to go on their cake, where I'm now not only looking in my world. The best thing about getting the printer in my book was being able to do things for other people and not just limiting myself to just cookies and only cookies. Just I'm all about giving back, and I'm all about making sure that we are making money in whatever avenue stream we can. And it's night and day being able to use something like the blue. And it doesn't take away from the fact that you're a great baker. And that was the other thing that I had to get over, because so many people have that like stigma. But again, at CookieCon at the booth, they were showing me all these ways that people print and then embellish on top of the prints. And being able to do that for wedding vendors. I'm talking to a bunch of wedding event planners right now for their events, their customers around Christmas time. They're looking to give those away. I can print anything for them. And it's just being able to print confidently, print on any single thing that you have has changed my life. Genuinely. It has made my eyes open to how many things that you can do. But I didn't realize that until I just started trying it and seeing it from other people. And I was intimidated by the other printer and the other printers out there. I'm not intimidated by the blue, even putting something new on it, because I've been trained and because I've tried it. And so people can come up to me and be like, oh, could you do this? And I'm like, yeah, I actually can. And I don't have to hesitate and worry about everything else.
Yeah.
And so really just getting that confidence, printing on it, not leaving it, like you said, as a doorstop, because you're going to regret that, because it's money that you spent, but also money that you can earn tenfold.
Yeah.
If you use
and many people know that I will not sell it to them if I know they're not going to use it enough. And we specifically ask questions when people place their order, even if they haven't talked to us, to make sure they understand this is a printer to be used, and we don't want anyone to get it if they're not going to use it.
And that was exactly another thing that I valued over there, like over at CookieCon, just in comparison of talking to people and talking to vendors and talking, like it was so very clear that you guys knew every aspect of your product inside and outside, to where you could teach me to know every inside and outside aspect, and to confidently be able to work on something where I have control over still, but it makes my life easier. And knowing that you guys genuinely have my best interest in my business at heart by you creating products that create such awesome outcomes, but also in helping me troubleshoot or figure things out or making sure that I use her to the best of her ability. And I never felt once where it's like, oh, well, are you good enough for us? It's like, no, it's not that. It's, is this printer right for you?
Right.
Are you going to use it to the best of its ability? And are you going to make sure that it's worth your while? Because it's a full investment, and every dime that I spent has come back to me already. And again, it's 3 months.
So you got those 2 new customers, the military and then that business school. Would you have been able to get those customers without the bloom?
Not at all. Not at all, because they want very specific logos and they want them quick, and they want to let me know that they need 900 cookies in a week.
Yeah.
And right now, I haven't even posted on my social media that I have her yet, besides on stories, because when I got her in September, I was already booked out till the end of the year for custom orders. So the printed ones that I've done have been already booked before I went to CookieCon, thinking I had a different edible printer. So it's kind of wild, because doing those things, I've actually been able to open my books more to printed orders now that I learned how to take it, so move it so quickly, where my books were booked out. And then once I did that order for the Kelly School of Business and then for the military, and then they wanted custom orders, I was able to say yes. Like, I didn't put it out to the customer base yet, but my word of mouth was enough to get me through the end of the year. And then I'm going to make this big post all over the new year to like launch this new part of my business.
That's awesome.
I really wanted to take the time to kind of figure out how I'm going to use it in my business and test it out on some customers before I just put it out there.
Yeah.
Because again, I want to make sure that everything that goes out of my kitchen is perfect.
Yeah.
The other thing that I did for my market that somebody opened my eyes to is embellishments from other people using markers after you've printed on the cookie. So I printed an interactive dot to dot on a cookie, and then I sold it with an edible marker. I was able to upcharge for the marker, and I got $6 out of one cookie. And it took me maybe 30 seconds to flood in total, and then like walk it to my cookie room. And then I printed it, and then I bagged it, and it sold right away. People were ecstatic because then their kid had a treat and an activity.
Yeah.
And then I also had another one that was like elf yourself, and you could draw yourself as an elf on the cookie.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, the parents seeing those types of things, they're like, wait, we can interact with the cookie. And I'm like, yes, you can.
Yeah.
And seeing at Icing Images, you guys put on fondant, an image on fondant, and then used it as like a cake board placement.
Yep. Susan,
I'm tossing around ideas and trying to figure out how I'm going to do it for Easter, because I think that'll be the perfect time for Easter, like the Easter bunny and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I just didn't
Valentine's Day.
I could very much do a little date night Valentine's Day board.
Yeah, you know, the little treats the kids bring to their class.
Yes,
Ooh,
and I can get those to them cheaper than I would for a decorated cookie.
Exactly.
And so little things like that, and that's the benefit of having you guys as the people I talk to.
Yeah.
Because you guys have ideas like that where other customer service bases maybe don't, because they're not in this business.
Gotcha.
And you guys are.
Yeah. Well, we've been around for 25 years now. And you know,
that was wild to me when I learned that, because I genuinely had no idea.
Yeah, I lived it and I have no idea.
It was so cool to learn about. And I feel like I know this printer. literally regurgitate information about this printer?
No, you have been for an hour, and I bet I could keep you going for 2 more hours.
I could, just because and I learned 99% of it at CookieCon by just hanging out at your guys' booth. So just getting that knowledge was just so cool.
Yeah,
and so awesome.
Gotcha. So in the beginning, you talked about you came to CookieCon and you had just bought a different printer that printed on cookies as well. Oh, I'm there. I'm back. And what happened to it?
I sent it back for full price.
Oh, good.
I literally returned it. I had my husband file for the return, and he put it in the mail before I even got back from CookieCon.
Oh, wow.
And a week later, we had full refund because it was within 30 days of purchasing.
Oh, wow. Gotcha. And I do know that many people who have different ones have been able to sell them pretty darn quick.
Honestly, yeah, because once people realize that like the blue is going to be better for their business, other people very much value the other printers, and they're still good printers. They just work for different aspects. Yes. And I see a lot of cool things that people do with other printers, but there's 10 times more cool things that I can do on this one too, that I just have to brag about a little bit more. Yeah. So it's like, it's just really cool. And I just value everything that I've learned.
Yeah. Yeah. I was excited when I came upon you, and I'm like, I asked your name, and I'm like, oh, I remember you. You were planted.
I was planted.
That big blue. You were on the big blue side, if I remember.
I was. Yeah. Because for a hot minute, I thought I was going to get the big blue, and then I learned about the little blue, and I was like, you know what? My small cookie room will work better with a little blue instead of the big.
Yeah, and
but the big blue is a half cookie sheet size.
Yeah.
And that's the other awesome thing. I mean, genuinely, the sizing of your guys' abilities are just so cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I just love it.
Well, you've been awesome, and I definitely think you kept everybody engaged, and they're chatting in the back and everything. They love it.
Good.
Hands down, and they're able to share things as well. So that's been wonderful.
Well, and I'm going to be printing on this cookie cake this evening. And so I'll be posting that on my stories.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to find me and see that on my stories, my cookie company is Weirdough Cookie Company. So
I never said it out loud.
I know.
So it's weird.
Well, and Weirdough, like DOUGH.
Yeah, I got it there.
And I have to have a pun in everything I do.
It's so funny. Like I knew you said it. That's really funny. So I knew it said that, but I never said it out loud.
Well, and it's funny because my last name has the I and the E switched.
Yeah.
So it's WIE, and then my business name is WEI. And so it gets real confusing because my maiden name is also REI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I've just been switching between I's and E's my whole life.
Yeah. There we go. But you get it. You get it.
Exactly. So I will be printing on that and posting that. And then I have a highlight on there too about my little blue journey. So if anybody wants to see that.
Yeah.
Oh, Kathy, I do remember meeting you at at the airport. I do remember that. We were in security.
Oh, wow. And you both got busted together right now. Just kidding.
Exactly. All the CookieCon things coming back. They were like, where are you guys coming from?
Yeah.
And then we said CookieCon, and they're like, there's a convention for cookies.
And
yes, there is. And it's a lot of fun.
Yep, exactly. That's so funny. That's awesome. Well, thank you so very much. I hope this was helpful to those of you who are watching, and love the way that you have just grabbed a hold of your little blue and printed and moved right on through, which is awesome.
She's my favorite. Thank you guys for having me. I had a great time. And if anybody has questions, feel free to reach out on my Instagram or Facebook. I'm happy to help.
Yeah, and I found you're more active on your Instagram.
I am.
Yes,
I am.
Check that. I had to go over there and look what you saw.
A lot more active on Instagram than Facebook. I get so many more business off Instagram, so I just focus there.
Yeah, and Kathy says her business is roll with me.
Yes. Yes, and she's the Magoo crew.
Yeah,
she's part of the Magoo crew.
Yep, and
Oh, I learned all about the Magoo
speaking
crew
of
there.
Magoo crew, next Tuesday is Artie Magoo.
I forgot about that.
Yes, Liz is coming on next week.
Sweet.
Looking forward to hearing what she is going to do. But definitely join us next week. You'll see the advertisements go out. And also, if you do get our email, check it out. There's some really good information in this one this week. I had way too much information, so it's going to kind of flow into the next week. So if you if you are not registered for our emails, you can do that on our homepage at icingimages.com. So thank you so very much.
Thank you
You're
guys.
awesome.